Big win for Oregon on Saturday, both in the context of their season and on the scoreboard, 35-6. It was Dan Lanning's best coaching performance to date. Here we go.
You are Locked On Ducks, your daily podcast on the Oregon Ducks, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Yes, it is that time once again for Locked On Ducks. I'm your host, Spencer McLaughlin. Thank you so much for making this your first listen or your first view of the day. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day, and your number one source to stay up to date with the Ducks. So if you have not already, like, comment, subscribe, rate, review, please and thank you wherever you listen to or watch this show, which today is brought to you by Prize Picks. Go to prizepicks.com/LockedOnCollege. Use code LockedOnCollege for a first deposit match up to $100. Daily fantasy sports made easy. By the way, we have hit 4,000 subs on YouTube. I think at the end of the show, I'm going to give you a heartfelt gratitude because I appreciate it so very, very much. I also appreciate how well Oregon played on Saturday. Gosh, that was fun. Really thoroughly good. Felt great to wake up on Sunday morning watching the NFL. My Seahawks got a big win too. And that was a win. Wasn't as good as Oregon's for sure. But I was thinking back to every game Dan Lanning has ever coached as the lead man for the Ducks. He's a 21-4, by the way. It's pretty good. Is that right? No, hold on. 21 games, 17-4 is his record altogether. I'm sure some people started typing in the comment section, especially you got this wrong. I beat you to it. Sorry about that. I was thinking back about each of the games Dan Lanning has coached so far this year, and all the games that Oregon's won, this was his best win. This was his best coaching performance. So the other candidates for, his biggest win to date were last year's College game day performance against UCLA. That was a pretty darn good one. Final score of that game, 45-30 at Autzen Stadium, and UCLA scored some garbage time points there. Last year, when they beat Utah at Autzen after the loss to Washington, 20-17, a hobbled Bo Nix. Yeah, that was a big-time game. That was the best defensive performance to date. That is until, several games this season happened. The Holiday Bowl last year, I thought was a great coaching effort from Dan Lanning. Held the North Carolina offense, led by future top 5 pick Drake May, to just one touchdown in the second half. 6 points, actually, and no touchdowns in the second half. I thought that was really good. Last year, the home non-conference opener against an FBS opponent, BYU, they were 2-0, ranked number 12 at the time, and the Ducks housed them. 41-20, the final score. This one's better than all of those. Because this was on the road. Were you facing a better offense against UCLA last year with Dorian Thompson-Robinson at the helm? Yeah, you were. Fact check true. But were you facing a better defense here? Yep. And Oregon, and why I felt this was such a great game from Lanning and indicative of what he's capable of putting together roster-wise and coaching-wise with his staff, is this was a dominant display on both sides of the football. And Oregon was ready from the jump on both sides of the football. Oregon takes the opening kickoff, and I missed the coin toss, so I didn't see if we chose to do that or not. But on the road against a Utah defense that coming into that game was allowing less than 17 points per game. In their last 2 contests against teams at Rice-Eccles, nobody had eclipsed. I don't think anybody had scored 20 points. They are a defensive team. They're a defensive culture. They're a defensive coach. That's what they are. And that's why they were 6-1 going into that game. That's why they were number 13 in the country, is because they're defense, and they just find ways to win. And Oregon comes out and sets the tone in front of like their 81st consecutive sellout and marches right down the field. Right down the field and puts it in for 6 and goes up 7-0. Then the defense gets a stop on 4th down. The defense, that drive that led to a 4th down stop, was 10 plays and 50 yards for the Utes. 5 yards a play. Not great. Oregon went 75-6. That's what good, efficient offense looks like. Oregon was making them work for it because they were ready for what Utah was going to throw at them, and they were prepared for the situation. They were ready for the crowd noise and everything like that on both sides of the ball. They get the stop, and then Bucky Irving fumbles. I heard a great stat from the Odds and Audibles guys earlier. That's the first fumble since Carlos Laughlin has been the running backs coach. That's an absurd statistic. And by the way, it wasn't even like a fumble. It wasn't like the ball got punched free. No, Junior Tafuna just made a ridiculous play. Like, as Bucky's going to the ground, he falls with him and rips the ball out. It's a great play. I remember texting a couple friends during the game, and I watched that happen, and I go, not mad at anybody. That guy just made a hell of a football play, because he had. And what does Oregon's defense do? They hold to a field goal. And then the offense gets the ball back, and then they go score. And then Utah comes back on the field, and the defense. The game plan, the execution, the roster, the physicality, the assignments, everything was there from start to finish that made this, as Dan Lanning so aptly described it, the most complete game that Oregon has played to date during his tenure as head coach. And I completely agree with him, because they were on the road against a good team and a really good coach, and they enforced their will. Here's another great stat. Utah, for the first time this year, did not record a tackle for loss. This is one of the best defenses in college football every single year. No tackles for loss. Oregon had 0 negative plays. The worst they did was run it back to the line of scrimmage or Bo Nix thrown in completion. Those were the only bad plays. Bo Nix, who I'm talking about later, again, no interceptions. Same guy every week. He's awesome. The only element of this game, and it wasn't even that much of a killer, was that Oregon had 8 penalties for 58 yards. That's the only element where you go, well, yeah, that could be a little bit better. Gave Utah a first down with a pass interference. Kyrie Jackson got beat. Okay, happens. I'd rather you have a pass interference than give up a 45-yard pass play. It's college football. You maul the guy every time. You say, give you 15 yards over 30 every day of the week. So 8 penalties for 58 yards. 58 yards isn't even that bad. It's not great, right? It's not great. But, I mean, we're splitting hairs here. We are nitpicking if we're going, well, penalties got to be cleaned up. Didn't have a bunch of costly ones. That has improved throughout the course of the season. The defense has improved throughout the course of the season. They turned in a dominant effort. And the fact that 8 penalties didn't matter is why Oregon showed that they are capable of winning the Pac-12 and getting to the college football playoff. Once you get there, who knows? We'll see. 1 week at a time. Cal's up next. I feel pretty confident in the Ducks in the Ducks in that spot, or about the Ducks in that spot. We'll talk about that more as the week goes on, but we should enjoy this one. We should enjoy this one because this is a heck of a win. This is a heck of a performance. This is a heck of a football team that Dan Lanning has put together. They looked really, really good. When they play at their best, as they did on Saturday, Oregon's the best team in the Pac-12. Full stop. Remember, 1 4th down conversion, and Oregon's sitting at 8-0. And where would they be in the college football playoff rankings if that had happened? Like, that's where Oregon is at right now. And I feel good about Oregon on a neutral field or at home. And obviously it'd be a neutral field if they played Washington again. I'd feel good about the Ducks going into that game. I'd feel really good. Like, the fact that you had 8 penalties and it didn't matter at all, win the game by 29 on the road, sent Utah fans home early. Boy, that felt like, I respect the hell out of Utah fans. Absolutely. Overwhelming majority of them. I'm talking 98, 99%. Full class. I live amongst them. Absolutely love Utah fans. That one was payback for 2015. And gosh, did that feel good. Really, really good. Great performance. Great game plan. Great execution. Great adjustments. Everything about that Oregon team looked well coached, well schemed, and well prepared. That was the best Dan Lanning has turned in so far. Like, there's this line in the Simpsons movie. One of my family favorites, one of my family's favorites to quote, because there are a lot of great lines in it, where Bart is having a bad day. If you've seen the movie, you know what I'm talking about. And he says, "This is the worst day of my life." And Homer says, "The worst day of your life so far." That was the best coaching performance of Dan Lanning's career. The best coaching performance so far. So now that we've gotten a Homer Simpson voice out of the way, which is not one of the better ones that I do, but I felt it was competent enough, we got to talk about the coordinators. The coordinators were on fire. You can be on fire metaphorically, though, with Athletic Brewing Company, because it is time for the Game Changer of the Week, brought to you by Athletic Brewing Company. Much like Bo Nix and Troy Franklin were linking up time and time again for game-changing plays, Athletic Brewing Company has completely changed the non-alcoholic beer game. They make non-alcoholic beers that actually taste good. I know. What a concept, right? Their brews are great tasting, award-winning. They beat out full-strength beers in global competitions. They brew over 50 styles of craft non-alcoholic beer, including IPAs, Goldens, Sours, and more. No hangovers ever, which is why they are fit for all times. So you can find Athletic Brewing Company's non-alcoholic brews at a store near you or buy online at athleticbrewing.com. First time customers use code Locked On to get 15% off your first online order. That's code LOCKEDON at checkout for 15% off at athleticbrewing.com. Near beer, exclusions and conditions apply. Athletic Brewing Company, fit for all times. Dan Lanning and this team are trying to build a championship caliber season. They have a team that can do it. Passion, drive, and patience, what brings home the winning trophy, is also what keeps your ride or die alive. eBay Motors gives you everything you need to maintain your vehicle and level it up to peak performance. From superchargers, roof racks, exhaust kits, LED headlights, and more. Whether you're into speed, power, or style, eBay Motors has got you covered. Lanning and his team, they're into all three of those things. Speed, power, style. We love it. Over 122 million parts for your number one ride or die. You'll always find exactly what you're looking for. And with eBay Guaranteed Fit, your part is guaranteed to fit every time or your money back. Because with eBay Motors, you're burning rubber, not cash. With all the parts you need at the prices you want, it's easy to turn your car into the MVP and bring home that win. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. eBay Guaranteed Fit, only available to U.S. customers. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. I never have exclusions for a second segment sip. That just doesn't happen. Can't happen. Gotta have it. Need it. All right. Let's talk about the coordinators. Let's talk about the coordinators. Coming into the year, Tosh Lupoy had plenty of skeptics in the old comments section and on the Twitter sphere, verse, whatever you want to call it, X-verse. Tosh Lupoy has silenced those critics because this defense continues to play at a high level week in and week out. They have won games for Oregon, Texas Tech, for instance. And the offense, look, the offense is, of course, still the better of the two units, but it's not as if the defense hasn't gotten, dramatically better than a year ago. Situationally, they're vastly improved. As I mentioned earlier, they have got the talent on the roster. You talk about an embarrassment of riches along the defensive line. Did you guys see the pressure that Blake Purchase generated? Beating a fellow four-star recruit and one-time Oregon target Spencer Fano at left tackle, just went right around him and smacked Bryson Barnes in the back and caused an incompletion. True freshman. Mateo Uyunglele, last week's Pac-12 freshman of the week, true freshman. You just go up and down. Tatum Tuioti is all over the place. Had the fourth down batted pass at the line against Washington State in Oregon's last game at Autzen Stadium. These guys are making plays right away. Oh, I haven't even mentioned Popo Amavai, Brandon Dorlus, and Jordan Birch. How about that play from Jordan Birch on the tackle for loss? He might be one of my individual standouts tomorrow on Tuesday's show. Tune in for that. But the defense had a great game plan, which was, hey, Bryson Barnes, we dare you to throw against our secondary, and also we're going to play man-to-man coverage. I see a lot less soft zone than I saw a season ago. I think this staff did a great job of bringing in players who they feel they can put into situations like they did on Saturday, which is, we're going to put you on an island sometimes. We're going to be aggressive. We're going to bring corner blitzes. Have you ever seen so many successful corner blitzes? Jalil Florence had a sack last week. Kyrie Jackson's got multiple sacks and quarterback hits. They've got the guys to implement the scheme they want to run. That was the most aggressive I've seen Oregon's defensive play calling since last year's game against Utah. They were bringing the house all the time and saying, we trust our corners, we trust our guys, trust our safeties. I'd been critical of Tysheen Johnson, fairly so, going into this game. All he did was deliver his best performance as a Duck with 2 interceptions. Evan Williams blitzing is a monster. The number of weapons defensively. You hear weapons, you think offense. Oregon's got weapons defensively. And right now, Tosh Lupoy and Chris Hampton, the co-DC, who's clearly making an impact there, and Lanning is the head coach and a former defensive coordinator, they're doing a really, really good job. A really, really good job of using the personnel, putting them in positions to succeed, and coaching them. Guys are getting better. Jeffrey Bassa, he's going to be an individual standout tomorrow. Spoiler alert, because oh my gosh, he was everywhere. And I got to go back and watch some plays again, but he was everywhere. He had his best game as a Duck, and Oregon's defense turned in a gem, an absolute gem. Game plan was good. Execution was good. Adjustments were great. No points in the second half. Remember, until that last drive, when Oregon failed on 4th down, Washington only had 1 touchdown in the second half. We were clamoring for, hey, where are the adjustments from last year? Well, here they are. I'm seeing them weekly basis. Washington State, no touchdowns until garbage time in the 4th quarter with less than a minute to go. Washington, 1 touchdown from the start of the 3rd quarter to 90 seconds left in the 4th when they got the ball at midfield. Utah, no points in the second half. Colorado, no touchdowns allowed by the starters. Just keep going down the list. This defense is playing really, really well. And the coordinators deserve a shout out for that, because they're the ones calling the plays. They're the ones making adjustments and everything. And speaking of calling plays, how about that man, Will Stein? I had a couple people who I was pushing back on in the last couple of weeks, saying things like, Will Stein is vanilla. Will Stein is plain. Will Stein isn't good situationally. Will Stein is no good in the red zone. And I said, hold up, time out. Let's take a pause. Take a breath. Oregon's got the number 1 scoring offense in the country. They average over 500 yards a game. They have a tremendous balance of run and pass. They're exceptional on 3rd down. They push the ball down the field. They run the ball well. They get the ball to all their weapons. What are we missing here? Their 73% touchdown rate in the red zone, which is among the best in the country. And lo and behold, against the best defense they've played all season, the offense played perhaps its best game of the season. I thought Will Stein was outstanding. I said Lanning had his best game as an OC. That was probably Will Stein's best game as an OC as well. You talk about having a game plan for what Utah was going to bring to the table. You talk about executing at a high level from the moment the game kicked off. Yeah, Will Stein had his boys ready to do all of that. And they did it in style. Ran the ball well. By the way, Oregon only ran for 142 yards, which is their 2nd lowest total of the season, which is a credit to Utah's defense. It's harder to run on than Colorado's, for instance. Fact check true. Here's another reality. If Tysheen Johnson doesn't have 2 interceptions that set up Oregon deep in Utah territory that led to touchdowns, Oregon probably has more yards. They were over 5 yards a carry. The offensive line was amazing. Bo Nix, the mesh of Bo Nix, the offensive line, and Will Stein is poetry in motion, because Bo Nix knows where the ball is supposed to go or where the ball can go. The offensive line is capable of protecting in a way that gives Bo all the time he needs. If you look at Oregon's offensive line, I think they're probably allowing more pressures than they did last season. Here's why it doesn't matter. Bo is reading the defenses at an insanely high level. Will Stein knows what plays and concepts to call. He's getting the ball, as he said in the offseason, to the studs. Feed the studs. The studs are being fed. Troy Franklin's numbers rival that of Marvin Harrison Jr., by the way, who's a Heisman Trophy candidate. Franklin's having an All-American caliber season. And Bo Nix is just executing. The rhythm and synchronicity between those 3 units or individuals is outstanding. Because the offensive line is so good, you can't get a quick pass rush. And Bo Nix is just getting the ball out on time, on target, over and over and over again. It is a beautiful thing to watch. And there were a couple quarterback runs, the speed option on the goal line. Hadn't seen that this year. The quarterback run on 3rd and 2. I loved that. That little motion, to lead block for Bo Nix on the quarterback power. Hadn't shown that all season. He had some new stuff. He has new wrinkles each week. He runs some of the same plays that are working time and time again, and they're kind of base plays for the Ducks. But I see Will Stein making wrinkles, making adjustments, little tweaks, little creative nuances, and the offense is explosive. It's dynamic. It's versatile. It's well schemed, and it's balanced. I mean, there's nothing more I could want from this offense aside from one of 3 fourth down conversions. There's nothing else I could possibly want. It is looking really, really good. So too are Bo Nix's Heisman odds. They're getting up there. Your bank account could be getting up there if you check out Prize Picks, because that's the largest independently owned daily fantasy sports platform in North America. The easiest and most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports. It's just you against the numbers. That's it. Instead of battling thousands of other players, including pros and sharks, you pick more than or less than on 2 to 6 player stat projections, and you watch the winnings roll in. Quick withdrawals, easy gameplay, and an enormous selection of players and stat types are what make Prize Picks the #1 daily fantasy sports app. Go to prizepicks.com/lockedoncollege. Use code LOCKEDONCollege for a first deposit match up to $100. That's prizepicks.com/lockedoncollege. Use code LOCKEDONCollege for a first deposit match up to $100. We're going with a third segment sip. Excuse me for a moment. Now we have soothed ourselves back down. Bo Nix, along with Drake May, is the most consistent quarterback in the country. No one has played a better slate of games than Bo Nix or Drake May. Penix had an off game against Arizona State. Penix had a bad first half against Stanford. He's still very good. Don't get me wrong. I'm not coming on here to trash Michael Penix. Bo Nix is the most consistent quarterback in the country. He's the same guy every quarter, every snap, every play, every half. Dan Lanning's face lights up when he talks about Bo. There's a reason. The guy is playing at an insanely high level, and it's awesome. And I have been hammering this home because I want every Oregon fan that'll listen to the show to understand this. We are so lucky to have this guy. Most experienced quarterback in college football history. Well, he sure is playing like it. He is not rattled. He knows where to go with the football. He delivers accurate passes. He moves the ball down the field. He makes good reads. He uses his legs when he needs to. I mean, I don't know what else to say. I don't know what else to say other than get that man to New York City. And if Oregon gets to the college football playoff, Bo Nix will be a Heisman finalist. If he doesn't, then he won't be. But if Oregon gets there, he'll be a finalist. I don't know if he wins. Depends on who else is there. If Oregon gets to the playoff, if they win their next 5 games, which would be 4 regular season and 1 Pac-12 title, they'll be in the college football playoff, and Bo Nix will be in New York City. Question came in the mailbag, by the way, via SUBTEXT. If you want to be a Locked On Ducks insider, talk with me one-on-one. Get all the thoughts I ever have, breaking news and reaction as things happen in real time. Join the Locked On Ducks SUBTEXT community at subtext.com/LockedOnDucks or click the link in the description below wherever you're listening to or watching this show. This question came in. You get priority mailbag in there as well. All right, got a question for next week. Do you think Bo Nix's performance and Oregon's big win against Utah will help get Bo back into the Heisman conversation? He didn't leave the conversation. He was just kind of given a different seat at the table, right? So if the head of the table is over here, the people who are closest to taking that spot at the head of the table are in the adjacent chairs on either side of it. Bo Nix was always, 1 or 2 slots away from the head of the table, maybe got bumped down to a third position after the loss against Washington. But when you beat Washington State and play well, and then you have College Game Day and the massive audience that comes with that, and Oregon plays as well as they did, and Bo Nix is the leader, and Bo Nix has got name brand recognition, and Bo Nix continues to have exceptional games. He only has 1 turnover of the season, just the 1. Remember that nickname, Bo Picks? That's a thing of the past. That is such a thing of the past. That's so Auburn, Bo Picks. They didn't give the guy the support he deserves. Oregon has done so. It absolutely helps his Heisman odds. As I mentioned, it's directly tied to team success for Bo Nix. He's put up outstanding numbers this year, really good. He's not throwing for 380 to 400 yards a game. So he has to have that team component. And Oregon players always have. The two Heisman finalists in my lifetime, 2010 LaMichael James, national championship, 2014 Mariota, college football playoff and national championship. So we can assume that's the case once again. And I think that's, when you look at the history of the award, that's how it's gone. That's how it'll go for Bo this year as well. This question from Fatty Matty 9319. Is there a movie title that you think encapsulates, that's a weird word, the Ducks season this year? For example, in high school, my team had a really good running back my junior year. So the title we received was, quote, Raging Bull. And the team to the south of us wore mainly blue and were senior heavy. So their title was Varsity Blues. Yeah. One movie? Yeah, I could come up with a lot of different movie titles. Look, it's challenging. You can tell I didn't write one down ahead of time because I like reacting to stuff in the moment. Feels a little bit more authentic sometimes. I thought one would have come to me by now, but alas, it hasn't. Here's the one I'll go with. I'll go with Field of Dreams. I'll go with Field of Dreams because if you build it, then they will come. And if you build that championship team the way it looks like Dan Lanning has, then the hopes and dreams of Oregon fans come with it. So I'll go Field of Dreams. I think it's a solid one. Let me know if you guys have ideas on that front though. Quick personal note before I wrap up today's show. We've hit 4,000 subscriptions on the YouTube channel and thousands more over on podcasts. And I want to express to all of you how incredibly grateful I am to all of you. And I look forward to 5,000 and 6,000 and 7,000. I want to take the show as big as you all will let it go. And to all you everydayers out there, I appreciate you more than I could express in just a couple of minutes. But I feel so fortunate to be at this network and to have an audience like all of you. You guys are the best. You guys are just the best. You support. You know what my favorite thing to see is? When I'm not asking people to do this, but some people just do it. When you're in a YouTube space like I am, people are going to come after you for whatever reason in the comment section, just random people I don't know. Like, it doesn't bug me. It doesn't bother me. My skin is 3 inches thick and it's fortified steel. Like, it's all good. But I saw something the other day. Someone said I looked homeless. I think it was like, why does this dude always look homeless and like he's doing the show in his mother's basement? First of all, I live in a 1-story house and it's not my mom's. Secondly, I don't know how I look homeless. I guess a plain white shirt isn't helping my case. Okay, so it's not entirely plain. This is actually an Oregon logo on the pocket square and whatnot. But anyway, so but somebody said that, and then some Duck fans came to my defense in the comment section. That doesn't, the negative comment doesn't bug me at all. But the positive comments make me feel really good because I love this show. I love the Ducks, and I love that all of you enjoy it. And I appreciate you so very, very much. And, that people would spend the time to go in the comment section with someone who I'll never care about and whose name I don't know, going to bat for me for something like that. I appreciate it. And I appreciate you all continuing to listen to and support the show. I look forward to continuing to grow it. And I love this thing. I'm really proud of this show, and it's nothing, absolutely nothing. It's just me talking into a microphone and a webcam without all of you. So thank you from the bottom of my heart. Thank you very much. Appreciate everyone listening. See you next time. Have a wonderful rest of your day. And as always, everybody, go Ducks.